The night was silent on the scrap world. The wind moved through broken machines and dead engines, making them scream like ghosts. The ground was covered with metal bones, sharp wires, and rusted machines that no one wanted anymore. In the middle of this graveyard of machines, a small figure was pushed forward by rough alien traders. She was a girl, thin, weak, and trembling. Her legs were not flesh and bone. They were old prosthetics made from rust and scrap. Sparks jumped from the joints with every step she tried to take. The traders dragged her like she was not alive, only another piece of junk. "Here," one of them shouted. "Sold with the rest of the scrap." They threw her down among piles of broken robots and dead machines. The sound of her metal legs hitting the ground echoed like a cruel bell. The girl did not cry. She only lowered her head, her eyes empty. She was used to this. Around her, other aliens laughed. Their voices were harsh, their teeth sharp. "She cannot even walk," one said. "She is worthless," another added. "She is junk. Let the scrap eat her." The girl closed her eyes. She wanted to disappear. For years she had been passed from hand to hand, each owner crueler than the last. Now she was here, in the junkyard, waiting to break down completely. But fate had other plans. From the shadows at the edge of the yard, a figure stepped forward. His shape was different, taller, stronger. His face was not like the others. His skin was pale under the moonlight, his eyes sharp and human. A human. The traders stopped laughing. Whispers spread through the junkyard. "What is he doing here?" "A human. On this world? They don't belong here." The human walked slowly across the scrap, his boots crunching metal underfoot. His eyes were locked on the girl. He said nothing. He only watched her with a strange look, pity, anger, and something else that no one in this galaxy understood. Compassion. The trader stepped forward, nervous. "What do you want, human?" The human's voice was calm but strong. "Her." The trader stared. "Her? She is broken." "She is junk." "I will take her," the human said again. A heavy silence fell. The aliens exchanged confused glances. Then they laughed loud and cruel. "Why waste credits on rust? She won't last a day." "You humans are strange," but the human did not laugh. He reached into his coat and pulled out a bag of glowing credits. He threw it onto the ground. The traders bent quickly, counting, their greedy eyes wide. "That's more than she's worth," one said. "Far more," another muttered. The human ignored them. He stepped forward and bent down. The girl flinched, expecting another cruel hand. But his touch was gentle. Carefully, he lifted her into his arms as if she was something precious, not trash. The girl's eyes opened in shock. No one had ever held her like this before. The human whispered so only she could hear. "You are not junk." The words pierced her like light breaking into darkness. For the first time, her empty eyes filled with tears. Around them, the traders shook their heads. "Foolish human," one spat. "The law will not forgive you." The human looked up, his gaze like steel. "The law is wrong." With that, he carried the girl away from the junkyard. But as they disappeared into the shadows, the traders whispered to each other, "He will regret this. The enforcers will come. No one breaks the law and survives." The girl rested her head against the human's chest, her broken legs sparking softly. She did not know who he was or why he had chosen her. But for the first time in her life, she felt warmth. She felt hope. Yet danger was close. Above them, in the black sky, red lights blinked. Drones watched. The galaxy had seen the humans' crime, and soon the hunters would come. The junkyard gates closed behind them with a loud clang. The night outside was darker but quieter. The human carried the girl in his arms, each step steady, each breath heavy. She was light, too light, like someone who had not eaten properly for weeks. Her rusted legs hung uselessly, sparking now and then with a sharp crackle. She looked up at him, her voice weak, almost a whisper. "Why?" The human glanced down at her. His face was tired, lined with scars, but his eyes were alive with fire. "Because you are not junk." The girl turned her face away, confused. No one had ever spoken like that before. To her, kindness was as strange as the stars she had never been allowed to see. They walked through the metal alleys of the city built around the junkyard. Towers of scrap leaned dangerously over narrow streets. Alien scavengers watched from the shadows with greedy eyes, whispering about the human and his strange prize. "Why would he pay for broken metal?" one muttered. "He is wasting credits," another hissed. "Maybe he is mad." But some did not laugh. Some frowned in fear. "You know the law," one alien whispered. Humans cannot give their technology to others. If he fixes her, if he makes her more than junk, the enforcers will come. The word spread like fire through the crowd, and in that world whispers were as dangerous as weapons. The human reached a small transport hidden between scrap piles. Its paint was faded, its engines patched with mismatched metal, but it still worked. He placed the girl inside gently, covering her with a worn blanket. For a long moment he sat across from her in the dim light, silent. The girl hugged the blanket close, watching him carefully. "You bought me," she said finally. Her voice cracked like rusted metal. "Why?" The human leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Because you should not have been there. Because you deserve better," she shook her head. "No one says that. They call me broken. They call me worthless." His voice grew firm. "They are wrong. You are alive. That is enough." The girl stared at him, her chest tight. Something inside her wanted to believe his words, but another part screamed that it was a trick, that soon he would throw her away like all the others. The transport lifted from the ground, engines rumbling. They flew away from the junkyard city, into the wastelands of scrap dunes. Mountains of broken ships and twisted towers stretched out as far as her eyes could see. The girl spoke again. Quiet. "What is your name?" The human hesitated. Then he said, "Call me Kale, and what will you do with me?" she asked carefully. Kyle looked out the window, his jaw tight. "I will fix your legs. You will walk again." Her heart jumped. She had dreamed of walking without pain, without sparks and wires cutting into her skin. But dreams were dangerous. Dreams had broken her before. "No," she whispered. "That is not allowed. The enforcers will kill you." Kale turned his gaze back to her. His eyes were calm but strong. "Let them try." The transport descended into a hidden canyon, its walls lined with scrap. At the bottom was a workshop built into the rock, glowing with warm yellow lights. Inside, machines hummed softly. Pieces of old Earth technology lay neatly arranged on workbenches. Kale carried her inside and laid her gently on a padded chair. For the first time, the girl smelled oil and steel not mixed with rot and garbage. It smelled clean, safe. She looked around with wide eyes. "This is yours?" Kale nodded. "A workshop. A place the enforcers do not know." He opened a metal case and revealed tools and parts unlike anything she had ever seen. They were sharp, shining, and alive with energy. "Human technology," the girl froze. Fear rushed through her veins. "If they catch you with this," she whispered. "They won't," Kale said firmly. "I did not save you to lose you again." For hours, Kyle worked carefully. He opened her rusted prosthetic legs, pulling out wires and dead batteries. Sparks flew as he cut away corroded parts. The girl watched him, half afraid, half amazed. "Does it hurt?" he asked gently. She shook her head. The truth was, it did not hurt. For the first time in years, someone touched her broken body, not to break it further, but to heal it. Her voice trembled. "Why do you care?" Kale did not look up. His hands moved with steady skill. "Because humans do not leave children to die." The girl's chest ached. The words were heavy, strange, but they warmed her like a fire in the cold night. But outside the workshop, danger was already moving. Far above, in the orbit of the scrap world, black ships appeared. Their hulls glowed with the red mark of the Galactic enforcers. Drones spread across the skies, searching. One of the junkyard traders bowed before them, trembling. The human broke the law. He bought a slave, and he is fixing her with human tech. The enforcer captain's eyes burned like molten metal. Then the human must die, and the girl must be erased. Back in the workshop, Kale finished connecting a glowing blue energy cell into her leg. He smiled faintly. "Try now." The girl hesitated. Slowly, she moved her leg. For the first time, it bent smoothly. No sparks, no grinding, no pain. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "It works." Kale's smile widened. "Yes, it works." But suddenly, alarms screamed across the workshop. Red lights flashed. The security screens showed black ships descending into the canyon. Kale's face hardened. He grabbed a small pack and lifted the girl into his arms again. "They found us," he said quietly. Her heart froze. The enforcers were here. The alarm screamed across the workshop. Red lights flashed, and the air smelled of burning circuits. The girl froze in her chair, her new leg joint glowing faintly with blue energy. For one brief moment she had felt freedom, and now it was already being taken away. Kyle, the human, moved fast. His eyes scanned the security screens. Black ships dropping into the canyon, metal claws unfolding, enforcer soldiers marching. Their armor was red and silver, their faces hidden by masks, cold machines of law. The girl's voice shook. They came for me? Kale shook his head sharply. No, they came for us. He snatched a pack from the wall, filled it with tools and parts, then lifted her into his arms again. His voice was steady but hard. We have to move now. They rushed through the narrow tunnels carved into the rock. The workshop's lights flickered as the alarms wailed. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed, metal boots on stone. The enforcers were already inside. The girl clutched his shirt, her new leg trembling. Kyle, they will kill you. Leave me, but Kale's grip only tightened. His voice was low, fierce. Humans don't leave family behind. The word family struck her like lightning. No one had ever called her that. She stared up at him, speechless as he carried her deeper into the tunnels. They reached a hidden hatch that opened into the scrapyard dunes. Above them, the night sky was filled with red lights. Drones scanned the ground with burning beams. The enforcers were hunting like wolves. Kale set her down gently, checking the glowing blue joint in her leg. Can you walk? The girl hesitated. She tried to move, and for the first time in years, her step was smooth. The energy core hummed softly, balancing her weight. She gasped. It works. I can walk. Kale gave her a quick nod. Good, stay close to me. Don't stop no matter what happens. They began moving across the dunes, hiding between piles of broken ships and rusted machines. The girl's new steps were shaky but strong, each one a miracle. Yet every miracle was chased by fear. Above them, drones circled, their red eyes narrowing. Suddenly, a voice thundered through speakers across the canyon. Cold, metallic. Human Kyle, you have broken galactic law. You will surrender the property at once. Resistance will mean death. The girl's heart dropped. Property, that was what they called her. Not child, not person, only property. Kale's jaw tightened. He muttered under his breath, They don't get to decide who you are. The ground shook. From the sky, enforcer soldiers dropped like iron rain. Their boots hit the sand, their weapons glowing. Kale pulled out a weapon of his own, just a tool, a plasma cutter meant for machines. But in his hand it looked like fire. He pushed the girl behind a broken engine block. Stay down, he said. The enforcers advanced, their red visors glowing in the dark. One raised his arm. Final warning, human. Hand over the subject. Kale raised the cutter, his voice ringing through the night. She is not a subject. She is a child. The enforcers did not answer with words. They fired. Blue bolts ripped through the air. Kyle dove aside, the plasma cutter sparking as he slashed through the nearest soldier's weapon, the air filled with the smell of burning metal. The girl crouched behind the engine block, her heart pounding. Every shot made her flinch. Every shout made her chest tighten. But her eyes never left Kale. He fought like no one she had ever seen. He moved with fire in his veins, with a strength not of muscle but of will. He was outnumbered, outgunned, yet he did not stop. Every time he fell, he rose again, standing between her and death. For the first time, she understood what it meant when people whispered, "Humans never give up." But numbers were against him. More enforcers closed in, surrounding them. Kale's plasma cutter sparked weakly. His breath came hard and ragged. One soldier raised a blade, aiming for his chest. The girl's heart screamed inside her, no, not him. Not the only one who ever called her alive. She looked at her legs, the new joints glowing faintly. Kale had given her energy. He had given her hope, and suddenly something deep inside her answered. Her legs flared with blue light brighter than before. The energy cell pulsed, spreading through her prosthetics. She stood shaky but fierce and took a step forward. The sand hissed under her feet, sparks of blue carved into the ground. The enforcers turned their visors toward her. For the first time they hesitated. Kale glanced back, eyes wide. You can stand?" The girl's voice shook, but it carried strength. "I can fight." She took another step. Then another. And with every step her legs grew stronger, faster. The blue energy wrapped around her like fire. The enforcers stepped back, uncertain. Their scanners beeped wildly. This was not junk. This was not property. This was something new. Kale's lips curved into a sharp grin. "Looks like they underestimated you." The girl clenched her fists, her eyes burning for the first time, not with fear, but with defiance. I am not junk. The enforcers raised their weapons again, but their lines were broken. Their perfect order trembled. For the first time, they saw a child who refused to be erased. Far above, in the command ship, the enforcer captain narrowed his eyes at the screens. He saw the human and the girl standing together, light burning against the darkness. He spoke into the comms, his voice like thunder. Retreat, but mark them. The law will not forgive. Next time, the galaxy itself will crush them. The soldiers pulled back, their ships lifting into the night sky. The drones vanished. Silence returned to the dunes, broken only by the hum of the girl's glowing legs. She fell to her knees, shaking, but Kale caught her before she could fall. You did it, he whispered, her eyes filled with tears. We did it, but above them the stars burned red. The galaxy had seen, and their fight was only beginning. The night was not silent anymore. The air over the scrapyard dunes shook with the roar of engines. Enforcer's ship circled above, scanning the ground with red beams of light. Every pile of metal, every broken ship, every shadow could hide prey. And tonight the prey was a human and a child. Kale pulled the girl close as they ran between the dunes. Her glowing legs carried her forward, still shaky but faster than she had ever dreamed. Sparks of blue energy marked her trail in the sand. The girl's chest rose and fell quickly. She whispered, her voice breaking. They saw me. They saw the light. Kale didn't slow down. Good. Now they know you are alive. But, she began, but his sharp glance silenced her. His eyes burned with fire. Don't be afraid of who you are. Fear is what they want. Don't give it to them. The words struck her, but fear still gripped her heart. The sky itself was hunting them. Behind them, the sound of metal feet grew louder. Enforcer soldiers were closing in. Their red visors cut through the night like knives. Kyle dragged the girl into a narrow alley formed by fallen ship wings. The walls leaned close, the ground littered with broken wires and sharp steel. The glow from her legs lit their path like a forbidden flame. The girl stumbled but kept moving. Every step was a battle. Every step was a victory. The footsteps came closer. Then a cold metallic voice echoed, "Run, human. Run while you can. But you cannot hide forever." The girl froze. Kale grabbed her hand, pulling her forward. Ignore them. Keep running. They burst out into a wider scrapyard street filled with alien scavengers. The scavengers gasped, their eyes darting between Kale, the glowing-legged girl, and the enforcers behind them. Whispers spread like fire. The human broke the law. He gave tech to a slave. She walks with human power. They will both be erased. Some scavengers stepped back in fear. Others reached for comms, ready to sell information to the enforcers for credits. Kale's jaw tightened. He pulled the girl into a side path away from the crowd. His voice was low and urgent. Don't stop. Don't listen. Every step forward is another breath of freedom. They darted into the ruins of an old factory. The roof had collapsed long ago, leaving giant shadows across the rusted floor. Pipes hissed with leaking steam. The air smelled of oil and dust. Kyle slowed, his ear against the walls, listening. The girl clung to his arm, trembling. They're everywhere, she whispered. I know, he answered, but we'll find a way out. From the darkness, a shadow moved. A scavenger stepped forward, his face hidden under a mask, his hand outstretched. Give me the girl, the scavenger hissed. The enforcers will pay me well. The girl gasped, stepping back. Kale moved in front of her, his plasma cutter humming with fire. Touch her, he warned, and you'll never touch anything again. The scavenger hesitated, then vanished back into the shadows. But the danger was clear. The whole world was against them now. They reached the far side of the factory where broken walls opened into the night. Beyond lay the scrapyard alleys, a twisting maze of rust and darkness. Kale pointed. That way. We move fast. The girl's legs glowed brighter. She nodded, though her fear shook inside her like thunder. They ran again, weaving through narrow paths, stepping over dead machines and broken glass. The sounds of pursuit grew louder. Drones buzzed above like angry insects. Enforcer soldiers shouted in the distance. The girl's voice broke. Kale! They will catch us. Kyle's voice was steady, even while running. Maybe, but until then we fight. Until the last breath. Suddenly, a drone swooped low, its red eye scanning. A beam of light hit the girl, locking onto her glowing legs. Alarm screamed across the scrapyard. Target found, the drone announced. Before it could fire, Kale hurled a piece of metal scrap at it. The drone spun wildly and crashed into the wall, exploding in sparks. The girl stared at him wide-eyed. "You saved me again." He gave a small, tired grin. "That's what family does." The word echoed in her heart again. Family. Warm, dangerous, impossible. Yet real, but their escape was not finished. At the end of the alley, more enforcers appeared, their weapons glowing. The path forward was blocked. Kale stopped, his body shielding the girl. His plasma cutter hummed weakly, its power nearly gone. The leader of the enforcers stepped forward, his mask shining red. His voice was cold as steel. "You cannot win, human. The law is absolute." "Give her up," Kale's voice thundered back. "The law is wrong. She is not junk. She is not yours." The girl's legs glowed brighter, the blue light pulsing with her heartbeat. She stepped out from behind Kale, her small frame trembling but unbroken. Her voice shook yet carried fire. "I am not property. I am alive." The enforcers paused, as if struck by the words. Then slowly their weapons lifted higher. Kyle's grip tightened on the cutter. The girl's energy flared like fire. For a heartbeat, the world stood still, human and child against an empire. And then the air split with the roar of engines. From above, a smuggler's ship swooped low, guns blazing at the enforcers. The alley lit up with explosions. Kyle's eyes widened. "An ally?" The girl gasped, holding onto his arm. "Who are they?" Kyle pulled her close as the smuggler's ramp opened. "Doesn't matter. They just gave us a chance." Together they ran into the ship as the engine screamed. The ramp closed behind them. The ship lifted into the sky, leaving the enforcers in the dust. But the fight was far from over. The smuggler's ship cut through the night sky, engines screaming. Inside, Kale and the girl sat against the cold metal floor, breathing hard. The smell of smoke and oil filled the cabin. For a moment it seemed like they had escaped, but safety in this galaxy never lasted. The smuggler, a tall, thin alien with dark eyes and quick hands, turned in his seat. "You owe me, human. The enforcers nearly burned my ship for saving you." Kale's voice was calm but sharp. "I'll pay when we're alive. Until then, just fly." The alien snorted, muttering curses in his language, but obeyed. The ship climbed higher, breaking through the dusty clouds. The girl clutched Kale's arm. Her glowing legs hummed softly, the blue light pulsing in the shadows. "They won't stop, will they?" Kyle shook his head. "No, not until we make them." Moments later, alarms blared through the ship. Red lights flashed on the control panel. The smuggler cursed loudly. "They're here. Enforcer interceptors, 3 of them." Kale's jaw tightened. He grabbed the girl's hand. "We're not safe in the sky. We'll have to fight on the ground." The smuggler looked at him like he was insane. "Fight enforcers? With what, rust and scrap?" Kale stood, his voice steady as stone. "With everything we have." The ship shook violently as enemy fire tore across its hull. Sparks rained down. The girl cried out, gripping the wall to steady herself. Kale moved to the hatch. "Find a place to land now." The smuggler shouted something rude, but he obeyed, diving the ship toward the dunes below. The engines roared, metal screamed, and with a final crash, the ship slammed into the sand, skidding across the ground. Smoke filled the air. The enforcer interceptors circled above, ready to strike again. Kale grabbed the girl and pulled her outside. The desert stretched around them, endless hills of scrap metal and twisted wrecks. Red lights glowed in the sky as enforcers descended. The girl's voice trembled. "Kale, there are too many." He set her down, gripping her shoulders firmly. His eyes were fierce, unbroken. "Then we stand. Together." The enforcers landed, their boots crushing the sand, their weapons glowing with deadly light. They spread in a circle, surrounding the human and the child. One soldier's voice echoed coldly. "Surrender the subject. She is property. You cannot change that." Kale lifted his plasma cutter, the small tool glowing faintly. He looked tiny against their army, but his stance was unshaken. "She is not property," he shouted. "She is a child. And she will walk free." The girl stepped beside him, her blue legs shining brighter, humming like thunder. Her voice cracked but carried fire. "I am not junk." The enforcers hesitated for a heartbeat. Then their leader raised his hand. Erased them both. The night exploded with fire. Blasts of red energy tore through the dunes. Cale ducked and swung his cutter, striking down the first soldier who came too close. Sparks and metal shards flew through the air. The girl's legs flared with power. She leapt forward faster than she thought possible, dodging a shot and slamming into an enforcer's chest. The impact sent him crashing into the sand. She stared at her hands, shaking. She had never fought before. She had never believed she could. But Cale's voice echoed in her heart. Don't be afraid of who you are. She took another step, then another. Faster, stronger. The battle raged across the dunes. Cale fought with desperate skill, turning broken scrap into weapons. A pipe became a shield. A shard of steel became a blade. His body bled. His breath came heavy, but he did not fall. Beside him, the girl grew bolder. Her legs carried her with speed no machine could predict. She dodged beams, kicked through armor, and moved like blue lightning across the night. The enforcers shouted in frustration. Unstable subject! Contain her! But she was no longer contained. She was free. One enforcer charged Cale from behind. The girl screamed, Cale! Without thinking, she threw herself forward. Her legs released a burst of energy, sending her flying through the air. She collided with the soldier, knocking him away from Cale's back. She landed hard, pain shooting through her arms, but Cale caught her before she hit the ground fully. You saved me, he said, his voice rough but proud. She looked up at him, tears mixing with sweat and dust. Like family. Kyle's lips curved into a faint, fierce smile. Exactly. But the fight was far from won. More enforcers poured into the dunes. Their weapons locked onto the pair, red dots burning across the sand. Cale raised his cutter again, ready to face death itself. The girl stood beside him, her legs glowing so bright they painted the desert in blue light. The enforcers aimed their weapons. Then, the ground shook. From beneath the dunes, giant engines roared to life. Buried machines, old war mechs hidden in the scrap, rose with blinding lights. The smuggler's voice echoed through a comm link, panicked but excited. I woke the giants. Old war machines, they'll fight anyone in range. Massive metal titans rose, firing into the enforcer ranks. Explosions ripped across the dunes. The sky filled with smoke and fire. In the chaos, Cale grabbed the girl's hand. This is our chance. We run. She nodded, though her eyes burned with something new, not just fear, but determination. They ran through the burning dunes as the battle raged behind them. The girl's steps were strong, steady, glowing. She whispered between breaths, Kyle, I can fight. I can be more. Cale squeezed her hand. You already are. Behind them, the enforcers regrouped. Their captain's voice roared above the fire. This is not the end. The law will not forgive. The trial awaits. The girl shivered at the words. A trial. A judgment. But as she looked at Cale beside her, she felt something stronger than fear. Hope. The galaxy's ships were cold prisons of steel, and the enforcer vessel was the coldest of all. Cale and the girl sat in separate cages of glowing energy, bound hand and foot. The air hummed with static. Every breath tasted like metal. The girl's glowing blue legs were shackled, the energy dampened by red clamps. She tried to move, but the restraints burned. Her chest filled with fear again. Cale sat across from her, his eyes steady. His voice carried through the hum. Don't give them your fear. That's what they want, she whispered back, trembling. Kill. They will kill us. He shook his head slowly. Not if we show them the truth. But the truth had no place in a galaxy ruled by law. The ship landed on the central station of the Galactic Court. It was not a palace, not a temple. It was worse, it was a machine of judgment, built of black stone and steel. Towers rose into the endless dark, their walls carved with the words of law in 100 alien tongues. The girl stared as soldiers dragged her forward. Crowds filled the platforms, shouting, whispering, spitting. There's the human. He broke the sacred law. He gave power to junk. The girl lowered her eyes, shame burning inside her. But Cale walked with his head high, his gaze unbroken. His voice rang over the noise. She is not junk. She is alive. The crowd hissed like snakes. Inside, the courtroom was vast and cold, shadows draped over tall pillars. At the far end sat the judges, a council of alien elders with blank eyes, their robes stitched with gold threads of law. The chief judge spoke, his voice deep and sharp. Human Cale, you stand accused of violating galactic law, giving forbidden technology to a slave. The punishment is death. Kyle's voice was calm. I gave her more than technology. I gave her freedom. The crowd erupted in outrage. The judge raised his hand, silencing them. His eyes narrowed. And for what reason? Kale's answer was simple. Because no child should be treated as junk. The words fell heavy in the room. For a heartbeat, silence lingered. Then the judges laughed, cold and cruel. There are no children in law, one hissed. There is property and there is owner, another said. Compassion is weakness, the chief judge declared. The girl sat frozen, her chains heavy. She had dreamed Kale would save her again, but here even his words seemed powerless. She felt the stares of the galaxy pressing down, 1,000 eyes waiting for her to break. One alien in the crowd shouted, "Erase her, she is only scrap." Another added, "Kill the human." End his madness. The noise grew louder, a storm of hate and mockery. The girl's head bowed lower and lower. The fire inside her legs dimmed. Kale turned his head, his eyes locking on hers. His voice cut through the storm. "Don't bow. Stand tall," her lips trembled. I can't. Yes, you can," he said firmly. "You already did once. In the dunes. In the fight. You are stronger than they want you to believe." The girl's chest ached. His words were heavy, burning, but they lit a spark in her heart. The chief judge raised his hand for silence. "Enough of this circus. The law is clear. The human will be executed at dawn. The subject will be erased." The crowd roared with approval. The girl's heart shattered. She wanted to scream, to fight, but her voice stayed locked in her throat. Kyle closed his eyes, whispering just loud enough for her to hear. "You are not junk, say it. Say it loud enough that even the law hears you." Something broke inside her, chains of silence forged by years of cruelty. Her fear turned into fire. She rose shakily to her feet, the clamps on her legs sparking as they resisted. The crowd gasped. Her voice trembled at first, but grew stronger. "I am not junk." The chamber fell into stunned silence. The girl's eyes burned as tears fell. Her voice carried again, stronger this time. "I am alive. I am not property. He gave me legs. He gave me hope.
He gave me a family."
Her cry echoed across the vast chamber like thunder. For the first time, the galaxy heard not law, but truth. The judges froze. The chief judge's eyes narrowed, his voice shaking with anger. "Silence her!" Soldiers rushed forward, but her legs flared with blue fire. Energy burst from the clamps, shattering them into sparks. She stood tall, glowing brighter than ever before. The crowd gasped. Some shouted in fear. Others whispered in awe. Kyle stood too, his smile faint but fierce. There she is. The child they tried to erase. Now the galaxy knows her name, even if they never speak it. The soldiers hesitated, uncertain. The girl's power was no longer weak or broken. She stood like lightning in the storm. The chief judge slammed his gavel, his voice like iron. "Then both of you must be erased." The crowd erupted into chaos, some cheering, some protesting. The walls shook with the storm of voices. Kyle stepped beside the girl, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever comes next, you're not alone." Her voice shook but carried fire. "We face it together." Above them, the red lights of the enforcers grew brighter, signaling their readiness to strike. But in the crowd, whispers began to spread, not of law, but of defiance. Humans. They protect. Maybe she is more than junk. Maybe the law is wrong. The galaxy was changing, one voice at a time. The chamber shook with voices. The judges shouted for order. Soldiers raised their weapons and the crowd roared in confusion. But through it all, the girl stood glowing like a star, her legs blazing with blue fire. Kale placed himself at her side, his hand steady on her shoulder. His voice was low but strong. "Stand tall. They can chain your body but not your truth." The girl lifted her head. The chains at her wrists burned, but her spirit no longer bowed. Her voice rose, trembling yet fierce. "I am not junk. I am alive." The words echoed through the court like thunder. The chief judge slammed his gavel, his eyes burning with fury. "Enough! This is blasphemy against law. Execution now!" The soldiers stepped forward, weapons humming. The red glow of their rifles painted the girl's face. The crowd gasped, waiting for blood. But before the rifles fired, another voice rang through the chamber. "Stop!" The doors of the court burst open. A group of humans entered. Traders, wanderers, smugglers, even soldiers dressed in old Earth armor. Their steps echoed like drums. Their eyes burned with the same fire Kyle carried. One of them raised his voice. "If you kill them, you will answer to all of us." The crowd erupted in shock. The judges looked unsettled. For years, humans had been few, scattered across the galaxy, rarely standing together, but now they stood shoulder to shoulder, facing the law itself. Kale's lips curved into a faint smile. "I told you, child. Humans don't leave family behind." The girl's heart swelled. She looked at the humans filling the chamber. Some she had never seen before, yet their eyes carried the same compassion as Kale's. For the first time, she realized she was not alone. The chief judge's voice cracked like a whip. "Arrest them all. Crush this rebellion." But the soldiers hesitated. The crowd whispered nervously. Even the enforcers, built of steel and obedience, paused as doubt spread. From the gallery, an alien shouted, "Why call her junk if she speaks like us?" Another voice rose, "Why kill a child for walking?" And then another, "Maybe the law is wrong." The whispers grew louder, filling the hall like a storm. Kale turned, his voice carrying over the noise. "You built laws to protect power, not people. But people see now. You cannot silence a truth that has already been spoken." He looked down at the girl. "Say it again." Her chest trembled, but she stood tall. "I am alive. I am not property. I will walk my own path." The chamber shook with her words. The whispers turned into shouts. The crowd divided. Some demanded her death, but others demanded her freedom. The judges slammed their gavels, but their power was cracking. Law was bending. The enforcers raised their weapons once more, but before they could fire, the humans drew theirs. A standoff lit the court, red against blue, law against compassion. The girl's heart pounded. She had never seen so many stand for her. Kale leaned close, whispering, "This is your moment. You are more than their law, more than their fear. Whatever happens next, remember, you are free inside." Her tears burned as she nodded. The judges saw the tide turning. Fear flickered in their cold eyes. Their voices trembled, though they tried to sound strong. "If we let this stand, the galaxy will fall to chaos." Kale's voice rang clear. "No, if you kill her, the galaxy will fall to silence. And silence is worse than chaos." The chamber froze at his words. For a long moment, no one moved. Then slowly, the chief judge lowered his gavel. His face was stone, but his voice carried defeat. "Take them, but do not execute. Release them beyond our borders. Let the galaxy itself judge their fate." The soldiers hesitated, then stepped back. The crowd erupted again, some in anger, others in relief. Kale exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders. He looked at the girl, pride shining in his tired eyes. "You spoke, and they listened. You changed more than you know." The girl whispered back, her voice soft but steady. "We changed it together." Hours later, under the dark sky of the station's outskirts, Kale and the girl walked free. The humans who had come to defend them surrounded them, guiding them toward a waiting ship. The girl's steps were strong now, each one glowing with blue fire. She walked beside Kale, not carried, not dragged, walking by her own will. As they neared the ship, she turned to him. "What happens now?" Kale's gaze lifted to the stars, endless and cold. "Now we keep walking. And maybe, just maybe, others will follow." The girl smiled faintly. "And if the law comes again?" He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we remind them, humans don't run from family." As their ship lifted into the sky, the galaxy whispered. Across stations and worlds, voices carried, "The Junkyard girl walks. A human gave her life." Maybe humans are dangerous, not because they fight, but because they care. And in the quiet of space, the girl rested her head against the window, watching the stars blur past. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like scrap. She felt alive. The galaxy had laws of steel, but humans carried something stronger. Legacy.